Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my review for The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 2. I plan on doing a lot of these today and throughout these next few days. I plan on trying to finish Season 7 by Saturday, but if not Saturday, then definitely Sunday. Um, so let's just get right into this. Um, yeah, this is Season 7, Episode 2. This is called, I almost called it the name of the show, but no, this is called The Well. I only know that because I just saw it. And this episode came out on October 30th, 2016, the day before Halloween. So yeah, of 2016, anyways. So overall, I actually had to watch this episode twice because I think when I watched it the first time, I didn't really like it all that much. Maybe it's because I just saw the last episode and then I had all of this other stuff going on. Like I had to do this, I had to do that, so I couldn't really sit down, really watch it, and enjoy it. So I watched it a second time, and um, yeah, I'm probably gonna So I watched this a second time and I enjoyed it better the second time. I think it was just I had all this other stuff going on. So I had to and I think this I had to kind of say maybe this really wasn't that bad, maybe I just didn't like it. Maybe what I'm trying to say is maybe it really wasn't that bad, but because of what it was going on in my head that it seemed bad. So watching it a second time when I was more calm and stuff was helpful. Um, I definitely will admit, I think if I would have been watching this live on TV, I probably would have enjoyed this one more, just because it would have been a week since the season one. Well, no, it's not season one, episode one. So I would have been because I literally saw this episode right after episode one happened. So I think my mind was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Um, so that's basically why I think I had to watch it again because I hadn't just watched the first episode and I didn't have all this other stuff going on. So, um, let me start talking about it. I'll just say this though. There was mainly only really one real story in this episode, so I'm not really gonna do the up down method. I'm just gonna kind of talk about it. I'm just gonna say I did like this, but I did like this episode. I think what I liked about this episode was it was a more positive episode, and it was kind of like a different thing that Walking Dead has ever done. It was more positive. It was upbeat. There was some like negative moments, but it was a positive, upbeat episode. And I think we needed this type of episode after what happened in the last episode. So we needed a more positive, upbeat episode. I thought this episode was well placed to kind of fit here. So yeah. Um, would I have preferred a follow up after what happened in the last episode? Maybe, but because I expect the follow up to kind of be negative, I think we needed to kind of get everybody upbeat because they had to see a lot of negativity and a lot of gore and stuff go in the last episode. So I think having a positive, upbeat episode I thought worked. So let me talk about what happened. So this is the aftermath of when Morgan and that other group found Carol shot and they killed one of the saviors. And we see Morgan and this guy and this group riding off with Carol. They're gonna go probably get it to the hospital, but then they meet some walkers or zombies, whatever you want to call them, and they have like this big fight go down. And Carol starts having visions of the zombies of how they were before they died. Um, and Morgan kills all of them. I didn't really like this scene too much. I think the reason why was this reminded me of Halloween Remake 2 from 2009, and when they did this shit with Michael Myers. And but I'll admit they did this better than than fucking Halloween Remake 2 ever could have. So I will admit that. But this reminded me of that, so I hated it. But it just looked bad anyways. I didn't like this at all. So now maybe it was supposed to be good, but I didn't really like it too much. But obviously this was building to something big um, that was going to come at the end of the episode. So then Carol collapses. Everybody goes to the everybody goes to get Carol some help. Carol wakes up in the hospital in a doctor's office the next day, and um, then Morgan tells her that they're at a new town called the Kingdom. And um, how Morgan's been helping him out since they've been helping out Carol, and um, they Carol asks who the leader is, and then they go into this room. It was like a theater, which actually makes sense now about what he said. And we meet the Kin Ezekiel. He's the kin of the village of the town, and he's with a tiger. I like the way that Morgan introduced him, saying, "Yeah, the leader's a little bit a little bit crazy because he has a tiger." And I hated the way the tiger looked in this. You could totally tell that they CGI'd him in there because it didn't even look like he was really there. It just kind of looked like that Ken Ezekiel was just patting the tiger that they edited in there. I'll admit I didn't like that too much. But overall, I liked it. We find out the tiger's name is Shiva. And Ken Ezekiel was played by Kyrie Payton. I don't know if that Carey Payton. I don't know if that's how you say his name or not, but he did a great job in that role. I thought he did a great job. So basically, he thinks he's a king. And this is all like a fairy tale to them. He talks to Carol. He tells Carol that typically if we provide for you, you have to kind of do work to provide for us. And Carol starts acting all sweet and innocent like she typically does. And it was a nice little altercation they had. I liked his friend Jerry. It was like he was like his court jestman or something. And yeah, they act all sweet and nice to each other, and then they leave. Carol thinks this guy's insane. They think this whole town's a joke. It's nothing but a fairy tale. And Carol wants to leave, but Morgan doesn't want her to leave because he doesn't want to let her die out there. And Carol tells her that he doesn't have the right to decide, and how he did all this other stuff in Alexandria, and how he has this philosophy where he doesn't want to kill anybody. But now Morgan doesn't really know what his philosophy is after killing the Savior in the last at the end of season 6. So, but he doesn't want to let Carol die because if she goes out there, she'll die. And Carol tells her that I'm going to do it when you can't stop me. So, what happens next? I actually don't remember what happens next. Then Morgan, Ken Ezekiel, and Ben, and then Richard, are all hunting pigs. We find out what this is for later on. And apparently they have the pigs eat zombies, and Richard wants this to be kept a secret, and Ken Ezekiel wants this to be kept a secret, and I liked that scene. And Ben doesn't really know how to fight. He tried to go kill one of the zombies, but he doesn't really know how to fight so good with knives and stuff like that. So when they get back to the town, Ken Ezekiel asks Morgan to train him in Kino, because he likes how he fights, and maybe he wants to make Benjamin a asset to his community, and he thinks that him learning how to fight with weapons, well, like the stick, will be a better suit for him. Morgan doesn't really know if he wants to do it at first, because he talks about how because Morgan's basically questioning his beliefs again. He doesn't know if he wants to go back to his old ways where he cleared and killed people like in episode 4 of season 6, or if he wants to continue with the way he's been dealing with it, coping with this fear. So I liked that part of the episode, where Morgan's starting to question himself about where he wants to go in this world now after what happened. It kind of feels like he's slowly breaking. He's kind of in between. I like it. They kind of did more with it. Morgan was teaching Benjamin the way of Kino, and Ben was asked for the copy of the book that Eastman wrote for him, talking about not killing people. Morgan gave it to him, and then Benjamin asked him about it later on. And Morgan says that it's not about what I think about how you should live your life. It's about what I believe. And he said that he thought he had it all figured out, but now he's figuring out that he needs to kind of adjust his way of thinking. So I like this part. It's like Morgan's questioning himself, and then later on they go. This was actually earlier in the episode. they go to the saviors, and they go outside and they make the deal with the saviors, where um, they make a trade because obviously the saviors typically get every supply, so they give them the pigs that are all that have all eaten decayed dead zombies. Well, I shouldn't say decayed zombies, but and I liked when one of the guys asked, they looked like they looked bigger than last time. Richard said they were well fed. And then they get Richard and one of the saviors get into an altercation. Richard takes a shot, and everybody holds up their guns. And when Morgan was gonna hold up his gun at the savior, he hold it down because he's still conflicted about whether or not he wants to kill people. And then the savior takes a free shot at Richard and tells him that they'll be back in productivity, and if this goes down this way again, then Richard's going to be the first one to die. So something tells me Richard's going to probably die in a future episode. And Morgan then asks Ken Ezekiel if he brought him out here because you saw me kill the savior and I could do it again. He's like, no, quite the opposite. So I guess he saw him out there because he didn't want to. So I like this. I like the conflict of going with Morgan. I like that he started to question himself again. So that was like one of the main stories. Then the main story, though, was really what happened with Kalo. Kalo plans on leaving the town or the kingdom, and she gets caught by Ezekiel. He sends Jerry away, and he says deuces, which I thought was funny, and he basically sees through Kayla's bullshit. He even says the quote, what was that quote? Don't bullshit a bullshitter. And Kayla tells him that all of this is just, and he tells her that you fought the saviors and you won. And then Kayla's like, what did I win? I just got thrown into a Joe community and I'm laughing at it. And then then Ezekiel says, well, maybe people want something to believe. Maybe people want to have this fantasy so that way they don't have to go deal with all the other bad part of the world. And he says that the reason how he became king was because everybody saw him with a tiger and people started telling stories about him, saw him as this big hero, so he wanted people to think that he was a hero. And we found out the actual story. Yeah, and then so then we find out the backstory behind Ezekiel. We found out he was actually a zookeeper, and Shiva had fallen underneath in the zoo, like, oh god damn it. Sorry about that. I had to take a phone call, as you heard, because then they called my cell phone, and it was just a phone call I had to take. I just gonna edit this into 2 videos. I really wasn't planning on it, but then what happened was I just don't really want to lose all that footage, and that video was good enough where I can upload it. So I'm just gonna kind of pick up where I left off. So I'm just gonna talk about Ezekiel's backstory. He tells Kale about his backstory. He talks about how he used to be a zookeeper before the zombie apocalypse started. And I don't know, they don't call it that in The Walking Dead, but that's what I'm calling it. He says that the real reason how him and I don't remember the tiger's name, Shiva met is because Shiva had fallen into this hole in the zoo, and they couldn't wait any longer for the vets to come, so he had to go help himself. I don't know if it's a he or a she, but then he said that him and Shiva pretty much became close afterwards since he saved Shiva's life. And after the world ended, he lost everything. All he had left was Shiva. So he talks about how Shiva saved his life and saved her life and um, gave him hope. So then he faked being on top and being like this big kinsman um, until he made it to the top. And he even talks about how the reason he's able to be a kin so good is because um, he used to act in plays and stuff. So pretty much we were supposed to assume that he was kind of like a lower middle class guy, not really a lower middle class, like a lower working class type of guy, where he was a zookeeper, and then also was like an actor on the side. Um, and it makes sense because he talked about how he did a lot of Shakespeare movies and stuff, and if you hear Ezekiel talk, it makes complete sense because he says a lot of stuff that sounds like that comes from Shakespeare. Um, and um, he wants Carol to keep this between them for him and for the community. And Carol says, you can just do what you want. And then Carol is about to leave. And Ezekiel wants to help Carol. He says, you know, there's a way you can leave, but also not leave at the same time. And then Carol's like, why do you care so much? And he's like, because I'm a good people. I'm a good person, and everything's worth giving a damn about. So they kind of left us with that little cliffhanger. He said he would have somebody take Carol to a sanctuary that he trusts, and of course it was Morgan. So Morgan takes Carol to the house earlier in the episode. Carol had gone to a house where there was like a zombie inside of it. Um, and it was like a graveyard house. And Morgan and Carol say goodbye to each other. They tell each other to take care. We were supposed to have thought that Morgan was actually going to let Carol leave, but then what happened is that's exactly what happened. So she pretty much is out of the community, but is still with close enough to the community where everybody can keep an eye on us. Because Ezekiel comes in, and an earlier thing that happened is Ezekiel offered for her to try a tangerine, and she says, and earlier in the movie and earlier in the episode, and then he comes in and says, "You really got to try one of these," and then the episode ends. And overall, I enjoyed this episode. It was I thought this was a really good, peaceful episode. It was, and I liked this Ezekiel character. I think he plays it really well. And it's a really good character. This is just a nice, peaceful community. Now, I think that also the main reason they showed this community is I think what's going to happen is this community is going to align themselves with Rick's group, and they're going to go up against the Saviors, probably either at the end of the season or the midway through the season, just because that makes sense. I don't know if I obviously don't expect it to happen anytime soon. Because what I think is going to happen was the Kingdom, the Hilltop crew, and Rick's group are all going to rebel, are all going to come together and face the Saviors group. One thing I didn't really like about this episode is it's definitely a case in fact that this really isn't about zombies anymore. This is just about group warfare. And I don't mind the group warfare stuff, but it just feels like they've been doing this group warfare stuff since season 4, maybe season 3 even. And I liked it in season 3 and I liked it in season 4, but it feels like that the zombies are just inconsequential now in the show. I'm not saying that they have to be you know, they have to be like the main focus of the show, but it just feels like that the zombies are just kind of there and they're not really as big of a threat as the group is. And I still think, and in this episode, it showed how much of a problem it was. So I think they need to kind of get back to that. Maybe they are going to get back to that. Like maybe like one of the group, somebody in the show. Because what happened is I think they made a mistake by revealing. I think they should have left the storyline where Eugene actually was a scientist, and because I think because he was the one that like knew the cure and stuff, and I think that would have instead of him not being a scientist, it would have been better if he actually was a scientist. But whatever. Um, Overall, though, I still thought this was a really good episode. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. It wasn't quite a great episode, but it was still really good. I liked how this was more of a peaceful episode, like I said, because this is what we needed after the last episode. and I liked it. So this was a really good episode. The only thing I didn't really like was it reminded me that this isn't really about zombies anymore. It's about um, group warfare and stuff. And I like the group warfare storylines, but we need to kind of get back to the zombie stuff. Um, but other than that, I like this episode. And I didn't really like that earlier scene and stuff where they showed like the visions and stuff. But overall, this was a really good episode. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'm gonna try to do one more of these. I have to do something at 3 o'clock, so I'm gonna try to do one more of these before then. That's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.